chapter 1. Esther chapter 1. In Esther chapter 1, let's read verse 13 and 14. Verse 13 and 14. Then the king said to the wise men who understood the times, for this was the king's manner toward all who knew law and justice. Those closest to him being, count them, Kashena, Sheta, Admata, Tashish, Meres, Masena, and Memucan. 7. The 7 princes of Persia and Media, who had access to the king's presence and who ranked highest in the kingdom. Show me where Haman appeared. He was not there. There were 7 princes of the kingdom who had access to the king's presence, who understood the law and justice of the kingdom, who gave counsel to the king. Haman was not there. He was obscure. He was unknown. But suddenly he became the right-hand man of the king. What happened? Waiting happened. One of those 7 princes were the ones that gave counsel to King Ahasuerus about Vashti. The 7th prince mentioned on that list, Memucan, he was the one that told King Ahasuerus what to do when Vashti refused to appear before the king. It was Memucan that told the king, let another person replace Vashti. And the king accepted. Read Esther chapter 1, verse 16 to 21. Or 22, verse 16 to 22. You will see the record. Haman was nowhere. But Haman was a man that depended on the powers of darkness. Haman was not going to do anything except he consulted his oracles. Haman was an occultic man. So Haman believed in divinations. He sought counsel from the powers of darkness for everything he did. In Esther chapter 3 verse 7, we saw Haman depending on divination for an enterprise he was about to carry out. Esther chapter 3 verse 7. In the first month, which is the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast Paul, that is the Lord, before Haman to determine the day and the month until it fell on the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. They cast Paul, which is the Lord. That was divination. Diviners were divining for him to choose a date. He had decided that he was going to exterminate the Jews. But he was not going to just do it anyhow. For him, it was a spiritual enterprise. So he needed to depend on powers of darkness. So he had to call diviners to tell him the exact date that was appropriate for him to carry out such an important enterprise. And they cast Paul, did divination until they chose the 13th day of the last month of the year. This was something he did on the first month of the year. He wanted to kill the Jews on the first month of the year. But the diviners chose 13th of the last month. Imagine a man having a plan in January. And they told him this plan, the best time to execute it is 13th of December. And the man said, amen. He agreed. That will show you how he attached importance and depended on his oracles to carry out any serious enterprise. So there was nothing Haman could do without depending on the oracles that he consulted regularly. So that was the man that came to the scene and had an evil shift to displace Mordecai. In Esther chapter 4, in verse 10 and 11, we got a peep to the further evil manipulations of Haman. Here, Esther was sending a message to Mordecai, her foster father. And and Esther told the messenger to relay this message to Mordecai. Tell Mordecai that even me, the queen, for 30 days I have not gone close to the king. The king has not even asked of me. He doesn't even know whether I exist or not. I have been in this palace, but I have been there like a decoration. Outside people will say, I'm a queen, but you may not know that even me, I don't have anything to do with the king. So the queen, the wife of the king, was not even able to have access to the king. But Haman did. Haman had unfettered access to the king. Because through spiritual manipulations, he had been able to influence the king. And let me tell you, what Haman did was not uncommon then. It is not uncommon today. It is still happening. I remember one of those guys that they eventually called after the exit of Abacha. Rogers, they called him. He was giving his own account. And he was talking of how they were using ostriches to do a lot of marabas. We come and use all the ostriches in Nigeria. They finished it. They were going to all the African countries to buy ostriches. Why? Because ostrich has a long neck. And they believe that because of that long neck, that is how their own long tenure will be perpetuated. So they were using ostriches to do all manner of rituals to perpetuate themselves in office. It's not something that is uncommon. It's not a secret. So there are some people like that, even in the corporate world. They believe in the powers of darkness to climb the ladder of promotion. So when you are working with such people, you'll be a fool not to be spiritually sensitive. You'll be a fool to sleep spiritually. So we can see what Haman did. The king was completely under his control. So it was Haman that got promoted. Haman was given the royal signet, the ring, the signature of the king, the imprimatur of royalty. Haman was handed over a blank check, as it were, by the king. That was not common. In Esther chapter 3, if you read verse 8 to 11, Esther chapter 3, 8 to 11, you will see where Haman was talking to the king. And he was telling the king about certain people scattered all over your kingdom. He was telling him that these people are different. They do not keep the king's law. That it's not fitting for the king to allow them to remain. He said, if it please the king, let a decree be written that they be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who will do this work. And they will bring it into the king's treasuries. What did the king do? Immediately the king, like a zombie, took his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman. He just gave him the ring. With that ring, the imprimatur of the king was there. Anything he embossed was signed and sealed. And according to the law of Persia and Media, it cannot be changed. Once upon a time, the 7 princes of Persia and Media were those that will deliberate and decide what should happen or not. We are told that those were those that knew the law and justice of the kingdom. But now, Haman was controlling the king. He wanted to exterminate a race in the kingdom without inquiry, without investigation, without a second thought or whatever. The king, just like a zombie, removed his signet, gave to Haman, write it, sign it, execute it. Even the money, 10,000 talents that Haman said he was going to bring into the treasury. What did the king say? He said in verse 11, the money and the people are given to you. Do with them as it seems good to you. To the powers of darkness. He was able to wrap the king around his fingers. Now, who was this Haman? Who was this Haman? The son of Hammedatha, the Agagite. Haman was a descendant of Agag. Agag was the king at the time of the Amalekites. Remember when Samuel told Saul to go and wipe out the Amalekites? The king that was on the throne then was Agag. So Haman was a descendant of Agag. The Amalekites were enemies of the Jews. You know why? Because Amalek was the son of Eliphaz. Eliphaz was the first son of Esau. Esau, the twin brother of Jacob. So you could see ancestral hatred, bitterness. All through history, these Amalekites were very vicious against Israel. And God didn't like it. And God swore that he was going to wipe them out. God said, I will have nothing to do with the Amalekites. But let's move on. Haman brought this ancestral bitterness, and he was on a mission of vengeance. Before Mordecai could, know what was happening, he was now battling marginalization. He was now being deprived of what was his rights. And eventually, he was to face shame and death. This was a man that was already in the mood of thanksgiving. I don't know about you. Maybe you have a similar experience. Maybe you have been in the mood of thanksgiving. Maybe you have been expectant. You've been believing God for something good. You've been waiting and expecting. But somehow, instead of your expectations to come true, you're on the receiving end. You are now battling one problem or the other. one problem or the other, one problem or the other. Until now, you are getting confused and you're asking, what is happening? I don't know. That was the situation Haman found himself in. That situation was caused by Haman's manipulations in the spiritual realm while men slept. While men slept. While men sleep, the enemy will come and plant tares. You dare not sleep when you are supposed to be awake. You dare not. There is time for everything. Unfortunately, many of us don't know that there is time to pray. We don't even know there is time to fast. We don't know there is a time